YouTube was one of my favorite websites, occupying a serious amount of my internet browsing time. From music to movie trailers to video game reviews to people with really interesting opinions about anything, politics, philosophy, to extremely religious channels, I explored everything and found all kinds of debates fascinating. I also enjoyed browsing various conspiracy-related videos, not necessarily believing everything, but just for curiosity and fun. From Obama being a reptilian shapeshifter to prophecies being discovered by drawing some random stuff on Google Maps, even to flat earth and anything you can imagine. All these things were very entertaining for me, and so my day went by in an interesting, fun way. Trolling videos, whether on video games or real-life pranks or making fun of puerile social movements, really fun videos to watch. Trolling is all about jokes and no one should take it seriously, right? Well, wrong.
You're being offensive.
Who am I being offensive?
You're being offensive.
How am I being offensive?
According to feminists and social justice warriors, joking around is basically an act of violence. They call it hate speech. And if you look at their definitions, it's similar to rape, which can be classified as a form of terrorism.
There's a spectrum, and it ranks from interrupting to demeaning to belittling to raping women.
So interrupting, right? So what I just did, that was a form of harassment.
A lot of people told me to not pay attention to them because they won't win in popular view, as everyone just makes fun of them and basically don't care about their childish ideology. But by not paying attention, we have ignored one thing. There are extremely rich people pushing forward this ideology through well-funded international organizations. George Soros, a man who is said that he can change an entire country's economy by just making a single public statement, is a founder of such organizations and keynote speaker of no hate speech events. Soros founded Open Society Foundations, which in turn gives funding to countless other organizations that all claim to be for human rights, democracy, legal and social reform. I wonder what kind of social reform? George Soros is actually one of the puppet masters of the world, and we would need hours to explain the reach of his control on our society. Glenn Beck got fired from Fox News after doing an expose on George Soros and what strings he can pull. Another keynote speaker is Torbjörn Jagland, leader of the Council of Europe. This is an international organization that has 47 member states and operates on a declared budget of €500 million. It also claims to be all about human rights, democracy and rule of law in Europe.
We defend freedom of expression and of the media, freedom of assembly.
Interestingly, it directly funds the No Hate Speech Movement organization, which we will talk about today. So, what is the problem? Well, the problem is that a few days ago YouTube released an update with their future policies and regulations. It is called an update on our commitment to fight terror content online. It calls for machines to automatically detect and remove content, more experts to alert and review content, tougher standards for videos that are controversial but do not violate their policies, and more work in the counter-terrorism space. So once again, they invoke terrorism to make us accept the new policies for our so-called safety. But let's see what they say about the people who will be qualified and hired to judge our YouTube destinies. More experts, they say. Of course, our systems are only as good as the data they're based on. Over the past weeks, we have begun working with more than 15 additional expert NGOs and institutions through our Trusted Flagger program, including the Anti-Defamation League, the No Hate Speech Movement, and the Institute for Strategic Dialogue. I personally can't believe what I'm reading here, but at the same time it doesn't surprise me, since they have a feminist as a CEO. YouTube is basically giving their sovereignty away and power of decision to these NGOs. By reading what these NGOs are really about, I'm now very suspicious that the monetization and removal of content will just be about terrorism. Let's look at some of these. The Anti-Defamation League is an international Jewish non-governmental organization based in the United States. The ADL states that it fights anti-Semitism and all forms of bigotry, defends democratic ideals and protects civil rights for all. Going on their website, they say, its mission to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and secure justice for all people, irrespective of religion, color, national origin, ethnicity, gender and sexual orientation remains intact and relevant. So as you can see, ADL has nothing to do with combating terrorism, but actually with pissed off Jews, race battles and identity politics. Basically the things that you see SJWs, Black Lives Matter and feminists so concerned about. Of course, I would like a world where we can respect each other no matter what religion, color, gender and sexual orientation we have, but following what these NGOs that claim to fight for these topics is not the solution, because under what they claim, there are other interests that are against humanity and freedom of speech, and when you see that these NGOs try to get their claws and censor every aspect of society, be it entertainment, politics or socializing platforms, it is very concerning in regards to what type of future we will be forced to live in. These types of aggressive, abrupt measures will actually fuel the hate and will amplify society's tensions. I am very concerned what will happen in the future with conspiracy videos, saying that Jews around the world, will they be considered anti-Semitism and removed by the Jewish ADL movement, who have just been given full control by YouTube to do so. Interestingly, the Institute for Strategic Dialogue was founded and is headed by a declared Zionist Jew, George Baron Wiedenfeld. They also claim to be about combating terrorism in the About section, but check this out. Their recent event was a collaboration with Facebook to tackle online extremism and hate speech at scale. So again, this hate speech, hate speech, hate speech. It seems to me like it's just a bunch of campaigns that have no result. They get together, speak about hate speech, and will probably mess up with the solution, infringing upon the rights of all of us in the end, just like all the other centralized solutions against terrorism at a large scale have done, while not actually reducing any terrorist attacks. In fact, those have only grown in the last years. But the thing is, I don't even trust these people with their definition of terrorism. For example, ADL was fighting Pepe the Frog meme last year, an internet joke being taken as a serious cyber terrorist threat. That's why I'm very concerned with the future of YouTube if we let these people control it. The last organization mentioned as part of this YouTube Inquisition League is the No Hate Speech movement, which, like I said, is founded by the Council of Europe, led by Thorbjørn Jagland, who in his conferences preaches internet censorship masked as combating hate.
Human rights is also apply in cyberspace. The victims of hate speech online are real. Anyone perceived as different can be a target, whether because of their race, religious belief, nationality, sexual orientation, or even just their physical appearance. To give an example, it is now commonplace for women and young girls online to be hounded, abused, and threatened with rape. So we must not leave cyberspace in the hands of those who want to manipulate and abuse it. But the need to defend and promote human rights is as strong as ever. The basic principles and values which we apply to the question of balancing freedom of expression and protection from hate speech in traditional spheres of communication applies also on the internet. This is why the Council of Europe's youth movement against hate speech online is so important. It represents a move toward self-regulation, self-monitoring, and a positive peer pressure by the users themselves. This no hate speech movement, proposed by the youth organizations working with the Council of Europe, is being organized by hundreds of young people in all parts of the continent.
These organizations bring expert knowledge of complex issues, like hate speech. I wonder if this video that I'm making now is hate speech just for disagreeing with them. Anyways, radicalization and terrorism that will help us better identify content that is being used to radicalize and recruit extremists. Now this part I agree with. By all means, remove all the videos with crazy Wahhabi Muslim extremists calling out for people to bomb the infidels of the Western world. I am 100% for that, as well as other videos that call out for violence to solve a problem such as those made by Antifa. But the problem is, left-wing violent Antifa is sponsored by Tides Foundation, that is in turn funded by George Soros. Tides is a public charity and fiscal sponsor working to advance progressive policy in areas such as the environment, healthcare, labor issues, immigrant rights, gay rights, women's rights, and human rights. Again, when these people talk about women's rights, they actually talk about very relevant topics, such as considering a mere discussion interruption in the same category with rape, and associating it with typically male behavior, which is entirely ludicrous and a waste of money to fund such failed movements. These organizations talk about fictitious problems and myths, instead of fighting about real women rights and gay rights that people don't have at all, for example in Saudi Arabia or Yemen, where you are severely punished if you are gay or if you don't wear a hijab as a woman. These NGOs, in my opinion, use a form of double speak, so when they talk to us and say a word, it actually means the exact opposite of what we think it means. So for example, healthcare or human rights, it may mean promoting the pharmaceutical industry and keeping the population under control, or catering to a mechanized Big Brother type world where all humans have to be kept obedient by cumbersome laws. Experts said this, experts said that, so therefore we must obey. We will also regularly consult these experts as we update our policies to reflect new trends. And we'll continue to add more organizations to our network of advisors over time. I can't even express how absolutely dystopian these paragraphs seem to me, and you can go read them for yourselves, as I will put the official YouTube article in the description of this video. Feel free to go there and read it without my biased opinion, but for me these decisions represent censorship. It's like reading 1984 by George Orwell, where in a totalitarian state called Oceania, a new language is being used called Newspeak, which is controlled language of restricted grammar and limited vocabulary. A linguistic design meant to limit the freedom of thought, personal identity, self-expression, and free will. Is hate speech a means by which our controllers will ban different points of view? Do they want us all to think the same? And if we don't, we get removed by these reviewers from these entirely controlled, politically influenced organizations that are put in the thought police of YouTube. I think this may be the situation, but it remains to be seen. This is just what I can predict from analyzing the companies that have been mentioned by YouTube to be a part of the content control team and policy-making group. I wonder who are the other 12 organizations that have not been mentioned. If we find that these videos don't violate our policies but contain controversial, religious or supremacist content, they will be placed in a limited state. The videos will remain on YouTube, behind an interstitial, won't be recommended, won't be monetized, and won't have key features including comments, suggested videos, and likes. What does controversial religious mean? If someone says Jews control the world, will that video be banned? Will ADL lock that video up in a limited state? Well, if it does get banned, maybe the Jews do control the world, maybe the conspiracists are right. Because ADL is a Jewish organization and they clearly have been given the power to control what happens on the world's top video streaming site. In my opinion, a conspiracy video is not terrorism. These guys claim to fight against terrorism as their main goal to attract consent of the people, but behind that they seem to be able to censor all kinds of content that is opposed to their specific political progressive liberal view of the world. There are big organizations behind, with big money, from the world's top puppet masters. I personally don't trust this move at all. Will my Illuminati videos or social critique videos get ripped apart by these magnates? Will criticizing anything be considered hate speech? I hope that is not the vision that YouTube has for us, but if it does, I don't see a bright future for them, and the comments on their blog also seem to be with a dominant majority expressing the same concerns that I do. You can just scroll down until your finger hurts and still you will see the negative feedback that YouTube users have against YouTube's decision. The future of YouTube could become just a sterile place with no ideas being shaped. It will just be one point to view anything. The only way to have progress is to have forces that counter each other and strive to be better. But if you remove one side of the playfield, there will be no competition, there will be no crowd, it will all be boring and dead. I come from an ex-communist country, I know how these propaganda tactics work. When I found the internet, I was extremely happy to see the diversity and creativity of it. Unlimited possibilities. But now, every section of it is being slowly replaced. Notice how they use the words diversity and unlimited possibilities, when in actuality these words mean completely the opposite. They are selling us what we already have, but by the time we notice that we have been tricked, it will be too late, and we will have already been enslaved. This is their game, and we need to expose it while we still can. Thanks for watching. If you wish to support my work and keep this channel alive, feel free to support me monetarily on Patreon. I have officially joined the e-beggars, even though this whole thing could collapse tomorrow.